Hiya you wee devils, how are you? Obviously we've moved about a wee bit, just a new vibe, I quite like it, having this wee cosy corner. But today's video is essentially an info dump on Mycenae, because it's my dissertation topic. Ooh woo. My plan for my dissertation, oh, let me put my mug down, won't I? The plan for my dissertation was for me to actually go to Mycenae, take photos and that, and have a merry old time. But unfortunately due to Elvirus, I could not go, so I thought, why don't I take us all on a wee virtual holiday to Mycenae through Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Saying that, I'm putting out a spoiler warning just in case. Obviously we'll be in the game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so there will be maybe slight spoilers. Very minor spoiler warning though, I'm not going to be telling you the plot of the whole game, you know what I mean? Nobody cry in the comments because I spoiled something, because I gave you your warning. The whole Assassin's Creed franchise kind of pride themselves on being quite historically accurate. They work with a lot of archaeologists and historians and that, so I'm quite excited to take a look at it from an academic standpoint. If you're my dissertation supervisor watching this, no you're not. I'm sorry, please don't shout at me. This still technically counts as studying for my dissertation, so you can't be that mad at me. One thing I've not looked at in the game is the discovery tour, because I'm a busy lady. I don't have time to do that, I have a dissertation to write. All the knowledge is going to be from books and from the university, so blame them if I'm wrong, but I have not looked at the discovery tour for any of that. Just don't have the time, I'm sorry. I will also leave in the description box below all of my bibliography and some further reading if you would like to read up more about Mycenae or fact check me. Also, shout out to Fraser Campbell. Here's your shout out. Sorry I forgot last week, but an archaeology video is a bit more fitting for you to get your shout out to, so hope you're having a good day, pal. Right, so let's kick off and walk through one of my favourite archaeological sites of all time, in one of my favourite games of all time. In the words of Julie Andrews, let's start from the very beginning, a very good place to start. Mycenae was a late Bronze Age civilization which flourished between 1600 BC and 1100 BC. Its predecessors were the Minoan culture on Crete, which is where the Minotaur comes from, Knossos, all that stuff, and it was succeeded by the Greek Dark Ages. You might have heard of Mycenae before, obviously in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Also, if you're familiar with the story of the Iliad, any kind of adaptation of Troy, starring Brad Pitt or otherwise, you know, the story of Achilles, Agamemnon, Hector. Agamemnon is the king of Mycenae, and although the Iliad, most of the characters are mythical, there is actual evidence for a King Agamemnon in Mycenae at some point in time. So Agamemnon was a real lad. Don't think he looked like Brian Cox, but he was real. And Mycenaean culture was kind of spread across the Greek world. There were a lot of big centres that were Mycenaean. We got Pylos, which is down here, Tiryns, which is a wee bit further north and this way, Orchomenos, which is somewhere up here, Thebes, which is down here, Athens, of course, is still there. Knossos as well, once the Minoans boosted, the Mycenaeans did actually take that over. Of course, Mycenae herself, she was the capital, the crown jewel of the palaces. I don't want to use the word empire because it wasn't an empire, it was more independent city-states which all fell under the same Mycenaean cultural bracket, but there were slight local differences. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, on the map, the ruins of Mycenae are called the Palace of Agamemnon, which is not wrong, actually. Today I'm going to be focusing on the citadel of Mycenae herself, no one else. If you'd like me to one day go into depth on the other citadel, please let me know in the comments, but for today, we're just focusing on Mycenae. So before we get into the nitty-gritty archaeology bits, I want to take a look at two of the armour sets in the game. The first one is actually called Magnificent Mycenaean Armour. When the game came out, this was one of the things that was in like the store where you can just buy like aesthetic things and then bring them into the game. So I actually paid for this, and then when Valhalla came out, everything that was Odyssey related on the store got added to the game for free anyway, so I'm a little bit salty. Mycenaean armour is not the focus of my dissertation, but from what I do know, I can tell you that is not correct. It looks okay, to be honest. I'm not a fan personally of the green thing. It's kind of correct with the metal plating and the greaves, but we've not actually got much evidence to go off for Mycenaean armour. What gets me is the helmet. As cool as it looks, it's not accurate at all. Mycenaeans wore boar's tusk helmets that look something like this. It's just a simple dome shape, but it's covered in these linked up boar's tusks. It's the most true thing that we know about their armour, so why not just incorporate that and you can do what you want with the body, you know what I mean? So I appreciate the effort. Moving on to the second set of armour, which is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, I love it. I love this one. It's the armour of Agamemnon himself, ladies and gentlemen. Spoiler alert, you get the whole armour set for killing a branch of the cultists. And this is one of my favourite armour sets in the game, and I'm going to tell you for why. Looking at the chest piece, we see there is a Mycenaean battle scene. From what we know about Mycenaean culture, it's clear that they were mad about hunting, warrior culture and lions. They absolutely loved lions for some reason. The decorative spirals on the bodice as well are also a signature Mycenaean motif. Again, they were obsessed with lions, so peep the bracers. What makes this my favourite armour set in the game? Look at this shoulder piece, right? It's the golden death mask of Agamemnon on armour. I think it's gorgeous. This was an actual archaeological artefact found by Heinrich Schliemann in Grave Circle A within Mycenae, which I will be taking you to see in just a moment's time. It's not actually Agamemnon's face. It probably didn't look like that. I mean, it could be. For all we know, it could be. We'd assume since Agamemnon was a king, he would have his own big fancy tomb somewhere and not be shoved in a grave with a bunch of other people. But more on that later. So here we have it, the Mycenaean citadel. Obviously in real life it is much bigger than this, but for the sake of the game they've condensed it down and made it a bandit camp. How bloody well dare they make it a bandit camp. However, the developers have kept in some of the key iconic archaeological features of Mycenae, so thank you Ubisoft, I love you so much for that. As you can see, we've got the big Megaron Palace here in the centre. There's also the Lion Gate is, if you look there's the wee tag that says 73 where that man is, and of course the notorious Grave Circle A, which is one of the main factors of my dissertation, which I can't wait to tell you all about. Proportionally and geographically, they've got everything in the right place, because you would enter through the Lion Gate and be greeted with the sight of magnificent Grave Circle A as you walked up the path to the Megaron. Even though it's condensed and it's not a main feature of the game, they've still done it proportionate and accurate, and I'm very happy about that. We're going to quickly nip into the Megaron. I have very basic knowledge about this. It's not a main factor of my dissertation. For the most part, I love the recreation of the Megaron. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is set in classical Greece. The whole of Mycenae would be in ruins by then. Apologies for any dead NPCs that you might see, because I had to speed run through this and clear it so that I could show it to you without being attacked. And to be honest, the Megaron layout is actually pretty spot on. We have the outer porch area, an inner entrance vestibule, and then the main hall, which of course that's the main bandit den, so they've done it up to look lived in and grotty and have all their stuff in it. But obviously that wouldn't be there. It was also a multi-storey building. What I find really cool though is this little bit here under the rubble, which is actually the edge of the hearth or the fireplace. In a Megaron you would have the 4 central pillars holding up the floor above the ceiling, but in the middle of these 4 pillars was a big fireplace. The smoke would probably funnel up through the upper floors, out through a hole in the ceiling, just like my arrow did. But obviously it's covered over in rubble because the place is in ruins. I never noticed that until I really went into the Megaron and had a look about, and I thought that was just an exquisite little piece of detail. It made me so happy when I saw it, because the Citadel in Mycenae isn't like a main plot point in the whole game. It's just somewhere where you can go on the off chance. I found it really interesting how they actually bothered to put that in there and then cover it over with rubble. Thank you, Ubisoft. You outdid yourself with that one there, hen. And now we're going to take a wee wander down the path to the Lion Gate. This is an absolute icon of Mycenae. I already mentioned the obsession with the lions. Here it is again, personified. 2 lions in a column, and the 2 lions are facing forward to the people walking into the city. The faces of these lions have since crumbled, but they're thought to have been made of bronze or gold or some sort of metal. They've actually included that in the game as well, which makes me very happy. They've made one of the lions keep its crumbled face and the other lion has its golden mask on, which just makes me so happy. Oh, I love historical accuracy. This triangular motif attests to the fact that the Mycenaeans were very architecturally advanced, because as you can see with the gate, it has a big massive door lintel above the top. The triangle on top of that is just to redistribute the weight across the lintel so that the whole gate doesn't come crashing down. The Lion Gate also has this wee wall jutting out at the side, and this wall acted as a funnel for the attackers. Big armies coming up the hill to the gate. The only way to get in is through this Lion Gate, so they all funnel into this tiny wee vestibule that they've made outside the gate, surrounded on 3 sides by walls, and then the rest of the army pushing in from behind. What do the Mycenaeans do? Put their archers on top of the walls and they just pick them off like fish in a barrel. And now moving on to the site of the hour, Grave Circle A. Grave Circle A is a big anomaly in terms of Mycenaean burial, basically because of how filthy rich it is. In the game, if you look down into the Grave Circle, it's actually the exit to the tomb of Agamemnon, which is where you get one of those Spoiler, steely things, but that's not the case in real life. They were extremely wealthy shaft graves. The whole site was excavated by Heinrich Schliemann in the late 1800s. A pottery shard was actually found that was inscribed with the words "to the hero," which makes us think that these people within these graves were worshipped as some sort of hero cult, or they were significant people worth remembering. As well, Heinrich, the lucky sod, found gold jewellery, jewels, crowns, diadems, weapons, armour, gold-plated bodies, and of course the golden death masks along with them, one of which being the golden mask of Agamemnon. He is misquoted as to have said when he excavated it, "I have gazed upon the face of Agamemnon." He didn't actually say that. I've read his whole book, he never said it anywhere. The city had 3 building phases. The second phase, The second phase was when the city wall was extended to incorporate Grave Circle 8 into the citadel rather than being outside the city, which just goes to show that these graves clearly were highly respected and were thought to be worth protecting. And then also they added this protective slab circle enclosure around the grave site. So it's a glorified fence, I think. We still don't know who these people were. There's a lot of theories and ideas floating around, but them and their families put a lot of money into the ground, so they must have been awfully wealthy. Christ. From my research, what I like to think of it as is maybe the dead of some sort of family or a group of warriors or family of warriors, kind of similar to modern war graves in a way, but more extravagant and more family based. We've not got like a set in stone idea of exactly who these people are, and I don't think we ever will. To round off our mini Mycenaean historical tour, I'm going to take you back outside the city to one of the Thalos tombs. The one specifically that we're going to look at in the game is called the Tomb of Agamemnon, the exit to which comes out at Grave Circle A, which is not true. This one is not much to look at from the outside, but it's just in the game. They've only really done up the inside. Tholoi, or beehive tombs, were also misnamed treasuries by Heinrich Schliemann. They were misinterpreted as treasuries because they were chock full of goodies, but almost all of them, except for like one, were completely looted and emptied in antiquity, so we don't have much evidence for what was actually inside them. They were possibly bronze plated on the inside, or some sort of metal plating up the walls. Kind of in the game they've got mini bronze plates, but there would be much more of them. But obviously when it's been looted, they've took all the metal. But it's basically a big tomb with a wee chamber for the bodies and a lot of space for goodies. Ignore that hole in the wall there, that's a side quest thing. And again we can see the relieving triangles above the door lintels, more architectural realness. And just for reference, here is a photo inside the actual treasury of Atreus. Atreus was Agamemnon's dad. Looks pretty nice, you can see why it's called a beehive. And if you were rich, this was a place where you wanted to be buried. Like after the whole Grave Circle A anomaly, if you were a rich family, you would get yourself one of these. And then if you weren't that rich, you would get yourself the next nearest thing, which was a chamber tomb. Overall, I would say I'm quite happy with the Mycenaean representation in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Like I said earlier, the game's set in classical Greece, so they really didn't have to put as much effort into the Mycenaean and archaic stuff as they did, but I'm very appreciative that they did actually do that. So thank you, Assassin's Creed. Thank you, Ubisoft. As an archaeologist and an ancient historian, of course, I wish they could have went even further with it. Also, Mycenae isn't the focal point of the game, so I appreciate the effort that they did put into it, considering I've almost completed the whole game and all of the DLCs and side quests and that. Not a single one so far has taken me to that site. I had to go there off my own accord. So for the fact that it's just there, I am so happy. Thank you. I mean, Assassin's Creed is one of my favourite games of all time. Played the franchise and loved the franchise since Black Flag, mostly due to its historical accuracy. If I take a break from dissertation work and I go and play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'm like, I'm not really taking a break from studying because I'm immersing myself in that time. I feel like I can get away with it. And thus, that is all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. My bibliography, further reading and all that will be in the description box below, as will all of my socials, my Discord link and my Sneak Elite loyalty point thing. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to cover other historical areas or more Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But if you want me to cover anything historical, just let me know. I'm open to any and all suggestions. And also don't forget to subscribe if you made it this far. It's the end of the video now, so you might as well. That's all from me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Over and out, and I will see you next Tuesday.